Okay lah. Aku start dulu. So for the title is web server. First one is what is web server? Web server has two. This is web server hardware and web server software. Web server hardware is a computer that store web server software and a website's component files such as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. A web server connects to the internet and support physical data interchange with other devices connected to the web. For web server software, it controls how a user accesses host file and HTTP server that understand URLs such as a web server addresses. HTTP server can display the content of host website on a user device. For example of web server, it has six, which is Apache HTTP Server, Nginx, Microsoft IIS, Lightspeed Web Server, Apache Tomcat, and KD Web Server. For Apache HTTP Server, it is one of the oldest and most widely used web servers that open source and highly configurable. For Nginx, it is known for high performance and handling many simultaneous connection efficiently that you often use as a reverse proxy tool. Uh, for Microsoft IIS, which is Internet Information Service, it is a web server developed by Microsoft that mainly used on Windows Server. For Lightspeed Web Server, it is a high performance commercial web server. For Apache Tomcat, it is primarily used for running Java-based web application. And lastly, KD Web Server, it is a modern web server that automatically handles HTTPs and is easy to configure. Next, architecture of web server. Web server architecture is how a browser and server communicate to display a website. Firstly, user enters a URL in the websites and in the web browser. Example, Google Chrome, Safari, and Edge. Uh, Second, the browser sends a request to the web server using HTTP or HTTPS. And then third, web server find the requested file in the document root. The fourth, server sends the response back to the browser, and the fifth, browser displays the web page to the user. For the for the three-tier architecture, it has three. It is client, middle, and information. For evolution of web server version, for on 1990, Sun HTTP was made by Tim Berners-Lee. First HTTP server to be created the very first web server to share document among scientists. For the cons, no support for different website on the same server. Uh, in 1990, NCSA HTTP was made by Rob McCool and Eric Bina. First server that people actually use to run real website. For the cons, it's poor performance and no encryption. In 2000, Apache was made by the small Webster, the first server that was free, flexible, and open source, and being called Apache because of Apache server. The cons is it is high memory usage. In 2004 and 2005, Engine X was created by Ryan Dahl. It is created to improve speed and handle many users at same time. For the cons, it's hard for beginners. In 2010 to 2015, Cloud Growth made by Ryan Dahl. used for faster and real-time web application. For the cons, it is not suitable for heavy processing. In 2015 to 2020, container era Docker-based servers use containers to make deployment easier and more flexible. For the cons, it's required to technical skills. Last but not least, the most popular web server in 2019 to 2020 and comparison to others, why did it become popular? For the first one is Apache. It got 51.4%. It is most popular because it was stable, efficient, portable, and easy to use. For Nginx, it got 31.4%. It's faster and better for high traffic, but Apache was more widely used. For the Microsoft IIS, it's got 11.9%. It's good for Windows system, but less flexible than Apache. For the Lightspeed, it's got 2.3%. It's very fast, but many features are paid. For the lastly, Google servers, it got 1.3%. It's mostly used for Google's own service only. That's all for servers, for web server. Bodoh Cung, diam.
Dengar tak?
Ah, dengar.
Okay. Sekejap Nampak tak slide?
Nampak.
Okay. Assalamualaikum and hi. Saya Atira. Saya akan proceed pada web browser. What is a web browser? Web browser is a software application for retrieving, presenting and traversing information resources on the World Wide Web. Basically, software ni untuk buka dan lihat website di internet dan dia bantu kita akses maklumat seperti teks, melihat baca artikel, melihat gambar dan video. Okay, seterusnya. Examples of web browsers. Kita ada Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Safari, Opera dan Internet Explorer. Kita pergi ke web browser architecture. Okay, macam mana web browser bekerja? User masukkan link URL, contohnya macam www.google.com. Seterusnya browser hantar request ke server dan server akan proses permintaan. Seterusnya data website dihantar balik ke browser. Dan akhir sekali, browser akan paparkan web page pada skrin. Seterusnya, pergi ke evolution of web browser. Pada 1990, World Wide Web ialah first web browser yang dicipta oleh Tim Berners-Lee. Pada tahun 1963, Mosaic, one of the first popular browsers that made the web easier to use. Pada tahun 1965 pula, Internet Explorer came with Windows and became widely used. Tahun 2004 pula, Mozilla Firefox. Dia fokus pada kelajuan, security dan open source. Tahun 2008, Google Chrome. Fast, simple and user-friendly browser dari company Google. Pada tahun 2015, Microsoft Edge. Modern browser built with improved performance. Present. Browser continue to evolve with better speed, security and features. Okay, seterusnya pergi ke the most popular web browser in 2019 to 2020. Google Chrome Google Chrome jadi popular sebab dia sangat laju. Interface dia simple dan mudah guna. Banyak extension. Security dia kuat. Serasi dengan kebanyakan website. Dia juga boleh sync dengan akaun Google. Okay. Comparison dengan browser yang lain pada tahun 2019 hingga 2020. Browser Google Chrome, kekuatan dia fast dan many extensions. Kekurangan dia high RAM usage. Browser Mozilla Firefox, kekuatan dia better privacy. Tapi kelemahan dia slightly slower. Microsoft Edge, kekuatan dia good Windows integration. Untuk kelemahan dia, less popular extensions. Browser Safari hanya pada Apple devices saja. Kelemahannya dia limited on Windows. Last sekali, Opera. Kekuatan dia built-in VPN and ad blocker. Kelemahan dia smaller user base. Saja dari saya. Terima kasih.
Dengar ke? Sekejap
Dengar.
nampak tak? Boleh nampak ke?
Nampak.
So, Assalamualaikum. Nama saya Natasha. Saya akan terang untuk two-tier architecture versus three-tier architecture. So, first, what are two-tier and three-tier architecture? So, first, architecture ni basically macam mana sistem tu organize communication antara klien dengan server. So, first kita pergi untuk two-tier architecture. Two-tier architecture ni simple client server architecture, which is client connect directly dengan database server, tak ada middle layer. Dia ada dua layer, iaitu client dengan server. Client ni usually user yang guna application, contoh application macam website, apps, browser semua tu. So client ni tugas dia submit queries, run application and display output dekat user. So contoh macam Shopee apps lah. Kita as user search produk, klik buy dengan tengok produk details. Ni semua client punya kerja. So untuk server pula, server ni dia handle database semua tu. So bila user request something, server akan process dan send result balik. Contoh macam Shopee tadi, Shopee akan save kita punya order dekat database. So server yang akan buat kerja. Untuk three-tier pula, dalam three-tier ni client tak connect terus dengan database sebab dia ada middle layer dekat tengah. Middle layer ni yang handle communication. So kita divide three-tier ni kepada 3 layer, which is client tier, middle tier dengan information tier. So untuk client tier ni dia ialah user interface, tempat user interact dengan sistem. So dia So tempat user interact dekat sistem. So user boleh send request, tapi dia send request bukan to information tier terus, tapi melalui middle tier. So middle tier ni dia macam otak sistem. Dia process request, check rule dengan handle logic semua tu. Dia jadi orang tengah, orang perantaraan antara klien dengan database. So untuk information tier, ni database layer, tempat data disimpan lah. So untuk middle tier ni pula, saya boleh bagi contoh online banking. So firstly kita akan login dekat app. So login dekat app tu as a client tier. So Next, sistem akan check password, security rules semua tu dia akan lakukan dekat middle tier. Dan baru dia pergi ambil data dari database macam balance kita atau transaction history, itu information tier. Lepas tu baru dia tunjuk balik result dekat user. So next kita tengok purpose of each architecture pula. Untuk two-tier architecture, purpose dia ni untuk buat sistem yang kecil jadi lebih simple dan cepat sebab client direct connect dekat database. So communication dia jadi laju. Sesuai untuk small application. So untuk tier architecture, dia ni more to sistem yang lebih besar sebab dia lebih secure, lebih organized dan boleh support ramai user. Sebab tu kalau tengok modern web application sekarang banyak guna tier. So untuk explanation and comparison pula, kita akan tengok based on features. So first feature is structure. So untuk two-tier ni dia simple je sebab macam saya cakap tadi, client connect directly dengan database. Untuk three-tier dia kena ada orang pengantaraan dekat tengah iaitu middle tier. So untuk scalability pula, two-tier ni dia low scalability sebab bila user makin ramai, sistem akan jadi slow sebab semua client direct connect dekat database. Sebab tu dia slow. Untuk three-tier, dia high scalability sebab middle tier ni dia manage all request, so database dia tak overload. Features yang ketiga iaitu security. Two-tier less security sebab client can direct access dekat database. So kalau client kena attack, data pun boleh expose. Tapi untuk three-tier dia lagi secure sebab client tak boleh access directly. So everything go through dekat middle tier. So dia lebih protected. Untuk performance pula, two-tier ni macam saya cakap untuk small system je sebab kalau traffic dia increase, performance dia akan drop dengan cepat. Kalau three-tier ni dia better sebab workload dia kita divide between layers. Ada 3 layers tu, so kita divide between 3 layers. So sistem dia akan jadi lebih stable. Untuk maintenance pula, two-tier ni dia quite difficult sebab business logic dia ada dekat client programs. So kalau nak update sistem, kena update banyak client. Untuk three-tier ni pula, dia lebih mudah sebab business logic dia centralized dekat middle tier only. So senang untuk maintain dengan update. So last sekali reusability. Two-tier ni dia low sebab sistem ni more monolithic. Monolithic ni something yang besar and susah nak ubah. So tapi untuk three-tier dia high reusability sebab components dekat middle tier tu kita boleh reuse untuk sistem other system. So kita proceed untuk advantage dengan disadvantages of two-tier architecture. So untuk advantage, first kali dia very simple architecture. So dia juga easy to understand and develop. Lepas tu dia faster communication sebab client connect direct to database dengan sesuai untuk semua project. Development cost dia pun lower. So basically two-tier ni memang easy and cepat untuk semua sistem. Tapi disadvantages dia low security sebab macam saya cakap tadi, dia boleh direct access to database, scalability dia rendah, user ramai, sistem jadi slow, maintenance susah sebab business logic ada dekat client side and dia tak sesuai untuk big system. So untuk three-tier architecture punya advantage dengan disadvantages, advantage dia more secure sebab client tak access database direct, easy to maintain sebab business logic dia centralized dekat middle tier, high scalability, dia boleh support many user in one time lah, so dia lebih efficient. So sistem lebih organized and better performance untuk sistem lebih besar. So disadvantage dia complex architecture sebab dia complex architecture. Lepas tu dia pun mahal sebab kita perlukan banyak server. Development time dia pun mengambil masa yang lama lah, dan dia hard to design and manage. So even dia powerful tapi dia bukan simple untuk dibuat. So untuk use case pula, untuk two-tier architecture, kita ambil small inventory system. Basically two-tier ni sesuai untuk tempat yang user tak ramai sebab sistem dia simple. So direct connection dengan database memang dah cukup. So macam small inventory ni dia senang sebab staff boleh handle stock easily, staff boleh direct update stock dekat sistem, tak perlu guna paper, record apa semua. So macam example dia add new product, update sold item. So dia memang direct into system. So untuk three-tier architecture which is online shopping system, dia user interact with website interface iaitu client tier, middle tier process audit and business logic, information tier store customers and data in the database. Macam saya cakap tadi lah, Shopee punya dekat client tier tu kita tengok product availability semua tu, lepas tu kita boleh tengok product details macam tu lah. So itu saja daripada saya. Sekian, terima kasih.
Hello, this mic. Hello, percubaan. Dengar. Dengar lah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum dan selamat malam. Nama saya Dr. Amirul Mukmin dan malam ini saya akan memberi pengenalan kepada GitHub, Git dan GitHub. First sekali, apa itu GitHub? Apa itu Git? Git ialah version control system yang digunakan untuk menjejak perubahan pada source code. Semasa pembangunan software, Git membantu developer menyimpan sejarah perubahan projek, mengurus branch dan memudahkan collaboration dalam pasukan. Git juga boleh digunakan secara offline dan membolehkan pengguna kembali kepada versi lama jika diperlukan. Second, apakah itu GitHub? GitHub ialah platform online berasaskan cloud yang digunakan untuk menyimpan Git repository. GitHub membolehkan developer berkongsi projek, bekerjasama dengan orang lain dan mengurus source code dengan lebih mudah. Ia juga mempunyai fitur seperti pull request dan issue tracking. Terusnya, kelebihan Git. Git membantu developer bekerja dengan pantas, tersusun dan fleksibel semasa mengurus perubahan kod. Kelebihan GitHub pula, GitHub pula memudahkan collaboration kerana semua projek boleh disimpan online. Ia juga ada backup, cloud dan tools untuk teamwork. Kekurangan Git dan GitHub pula, Git agak susah untuk beginner kerana guna command line. Tapi pengguna baru perlu memahami beberapa cabaran teknikal dan operasi sebelum menggunakan secara efisien. Terusnya, perbandingan Git dengan GitHub. Dari segi aspek jenis, Git merupakan software version control, manakala pula GitHub merupakan platform online berasaskan cloud. Fungsi utama antara kedua ni, Git menjejak perubahan source code dan menyimpan sejarah projek. GitHub pula untuk host, berkongsi dan mengurus Git repository secara online. Penggunaannya untuk Git digunakan dalam komputer lokal melalui terminal atau Git tools. GitHub pula digunakan melalui internet untuk collaboration dan project management. Internet untuk Git boleh digunakan secara offline untuk kerja lokal. GitHub pula kebanyakan fungsi online memerlukan sambungan internet. Pemilik atau asalnya diciptakan oleh untuk Git diciptakan oleh Linus Torvalds dan GitHub pula dimiliki oleh Microsoft. Terusnya, cara install dan configure Git. Langkah setup Git bermula dengan download installer, kemudian configure identiti pengguna untuk setiap commit. Download Git, mestilah pergi ke Git download page, pilih installer mengikut operating system dan install seperti biasa. Install hendaklah memilih seperti pilih OS, download Git mengikut Windows, Mac OS atau Linux. Untuk configure save nama, email, maklumat dan cara verify-nya check configuration menggunakan git config list untuk memastikan tetapan telah berjaya disimpan. Okey, seterusnya. Basic usage and workflow. Workflow asas Git bergerak daripada mencipta repository, menyimpan perubahan sebagai commit, kemudian menghantar kod ke GitHub. First, Git init. Mula repository Git baharu dalam folder projek lokal. Second, Git status. Semak keadaan file belum dijejak atau berubah atau sudah stage. Yang ketiga, Git add. Tambah semua perubahan file ke staging area sebelum commit. Keempat, Git commit. -m. Simpan perubahan sebagai checkpoint, contohnya first commit. Yang kelima, remote. Git remote at origin menyambungkan repository lokal kepada repository GitHub. Yang keenam, Git push your origin main. Upload commit dari komputer lokal ke branch main di GitHub. Sebagai rumusan antara Git dan GitHub, ia saling melengkapi. Satu mengurus sejarah perubahan kod, satu lagi memudahkan projek dikongsi dan dibangunkan secara bersama secara online. Git merupakan version control. Git menjejak sejarah perubahan source code melalui commit, branch dan merge. GitHub pula untuk collaboration. GitHub menyimpan repository secara online dan menyokong pull request, isu serta teamwork. Dan keduanya adalah offline dan online. Git boleh digunakan secara online, lokal dan offline, manakala GitHub bergantung kepada internet untuk fungsi cloud. Itu sahaja daripada saya. Terima kasih.
Nampak tak?
Nampak.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hai, Assalamualaikum. Nama saya Jazid. Saya akan present tentang local server packages. Okay, so untuk local server package, dia ada 3 package utama, which is XAMPP, WEMP and MPPS. So basically local server package ni ialah satu software yang tergabung 3 benda, which is Apache, MySQL and PHP. What is local server package? So macam tadi lah saya cakap kan, local server package tu ialah software yang gabungkan 3 benda ni. Okay, web server, database dengan PHP atau Perl. Untuk apa? Untuk kita buat website, test website dengan simpan database. Okay, next. So inilah 3 main packages yang gunakan dalam local server packages. So your first one is AMPP. So AMPP ni stands for X, which is a cross-platform, any cross-platform. Apache, MySQL, Apache PHP tambah Perl atau Perl. And then WEMP. WEMP ialah Windows, Apache, MySQL tambah PHP. So ni specifically guna untuk Windows lah. And then AMPPS, Apache, MySQL, PHP atau Perl tambah software killers. Next, how they fit into web architecture. So dia ada 3 bahagian, which is client tier, middle tier and information tier. So untuk client tier, user just buka browser je. Untuk middle tier ialah Apache ataupun PHP request yang handle logic ni lah, macam contoh username and password macam tu lah. And then information tier ialah data yang disimpan lah untuk buka web tu. So next, so ni saya akan terangkan pasal first package. So AMPP, which is the cross-platform choice. So advantage ni ialah AMPP boleh run dekat Windows, macOS ataupun Linux. So tak kisahlah pakai Windows ke Apple ke, semua benda boleh run AMPP. And then SMPP ni dia senang guna. So sebab bila dia install tu boleh je terus guna sebab ialah dia senang guna. And then disadvantages dia. Dia nak tukar version PHP dalam SMPP ni dia susah sikit. And then kadang-kadang sebabkan benda tu kena install balik ataupun set up manual balik. Alright. So next, WMP versus AMPPS, strengths and trade-offs. Okay, so WAMP punya sendiri, native punya Windows service run smoothly. Okay. And then dia senang nak tukar version PHP ataupun MySQL, senang je. Tapi disadvantage untuk WMP ni, dia run dekat Windows, dia tak available dekat macOS ataupun Linux ataupun Linux. And then dia require updated Visual C++ redistributable libraries. Okay, so untuk AMPPS, software killers enables one-click CMS install. Maksudnya dia senang untuk install lah AMPPS ni. And then PHP dia punya version dia kena tukar directly daripada control panel. So dia susah sikit lah banding dengan Windows punya package. And then control panel can filter for beginners moving a basic server. Ini basically sebab control panel tu susah nak access untuk orang beginner kan. So dia susah sikit nak buka dia punya stage division. And so next comparison WMP dengan AppServe. AppServe ni ialah classic alternative often compared to WMP. Here's how they differ on key development as well. So feature yang kami gunakan ialah support interface dengan version flexibility. So WMP server ni dia ada sistem, dia ada tray system menu for food management. So dia senang interface daripada dia senang access dengan configure daripada dia punya interface. Then for AppServe dia tak ada GUI. So kita boleh configure and manage dia melalui Windows Service ataupun batch script dia. So version flexibility untuk WMP dia high switch PHP ataupun MySQL without closing the app. So maksudnya dia boleh tukar server PHP, dia boleh tukar version PHP ataupun MySQL without closing the app lah. And then low versions are fixed, full restore required to change. So installation step by step. So first kali obviously download the official installer. And then close apps, stop apps using port 18. And then run setup, select Apache, MySQL, PHP, and then PHP MyAdmin. Setelah sekali start services lah. Atau just a quick note, always download from the official website. So tak download version yang crack lah untuk prevent unwanted events from happening. So configuration and project setup. So key config file /config.com. So ini ialah Apache's punya main config. Lepas tu kita boleh tukar server port kalau port 80 occupied. php.ini. Ini ialah this is used to adjust PHP limits, memory, upload size ataupun error reporting. So ini adalah lain-lain package yang pakai lah dia punya link. So dia punya user. Alright, next slide. Which package will you choose? So untuk pilih mana package yang user patut guna, depends on preference. User boleh pilih ACMPP kalau dia seorang beginner ataupun dia guna banyak OS ataupun nak kerja senang lah. So orang pakai ACMPP sebab tu. And then pilih WMP kalau user tu stuck untuk gunakan Windows dia tak ada access ke Linux ataupun Mac OS. So boleh guna WMP dan WMP ni pun senang tukar version dia. And then last sekali EMPPS. EMPPS ni kita guna package dia bila senang bila kalau kita nak mudah buat WordPress ataupun CMS punya application. Alright, so itu sahaja dari saya. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Nampak ke?
Nampak.
Ya, okay, nampak. Assalamualaikum and good evening. My name is Adam Jibril, and today I will present about front end versus back end development. So, think of a web application as a theoretical production. The front end is the stage, like the actors, the lighting, the props, and everything the audience can physically see and interact with. The back end, however, is everything backstage. The director, the stage hands, the script writers, and the electrical system that keeps the lights running. So, as we can see, this is about front end responsibilities. So here is about designing interface, creating attractive login page, dashboard, and catalog. Then we got responsive design. Okay, sorry. Okay, as we can see, this is about front end responsibilities. Number one, designing interface is like creating attractive login page, dashboard, and catalog. Then number two, responsive design, ensuring a flow across devices using media queries, Flexbox, and CSS Grid. It's like a modern user might access the site on an iPhone, an iPad, or a massive 4K monitor. Front-end developers using technique like media queries, Flexbox, and CSS Grid to ensure the layout fluidly adapts to any screen size. Next, user interaction. They handle micro interactions, like what happens when you click a button, type in a form, or trigger a pop-up window. Next, connecting to APIs. The interface is just like a shell without data. The front end fetches information from the servers using modern tools like the Fetch API or Axios. Next, optimizing UX. Finally, they focus on performance. They ensure page load instantly, navigation feels seamless, and the site is full accessible to ensure with visual or physical impairments. Okay. Next, about back-end responsibilities. The back-end is the unsung hero. It is the logical powerhouse that users never physically see, but without which the application simply could not function. Their core duties include server management, like writing the server-side code that listens for requests from the web browser, process them, and return the appropriate data. Next, database management. Website must remember things, whether it's your profile details or your past shopping orders. The backend manages SQL and NoSQL database to securely store and retrieve this data. Number three, authentication. This is about security and access. The backend handles login systems, encrypt passwords using secure hashing algorithms, and manage user permissions. Next, API development. They construct the digital bridge, the REST or GraphQL APIs that allow the front end to request and update information. Lastly, security. Crucially, they guard the application against malicious activities like SQL injection, cross-site scripting XSS, and unauthorized data access. So, to bring this design to life, front-end developers rely on three foundational pillars, often referred to as the Holy Trinity of the web. First, we have HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. This is the skeleton of the website. It's defined the structural elements like headings, paragraph, forms, and image. Second is CSS, Cascading Style Sheets. If HTML is the skeleton, CSS is the skin, hair, and clothing. It's control the aesthetic presentations, color scheme, typography, spacing, and animations. And third is JavaScript. This is the nervous system and muscle. It injects dynamic logic and interactivity. JavaScript allows us to submit forms without reloading the page, create real-time chats, and handle complex browser site calculation. On the flip side, back-end developers operate a highly sophisticated, multi-layered stack of technologies to handle business logic and data persistence. First, they write code in server language. This can include Python, PHP, Node.js, or Ruby. This language runs on the physical server, executing algorithms and processing business rules. Second, our database. We should split this into relational database like MySQL or PostgreSQL. We store data in structural table. And non-relational database like MongoDB, which store data in flexible documents like formats. And finally, they construct API, specifically REST and GraphQL. This API acts as the standardized interface, packaging backend data into lightweight JSON and XML formats, so the front end can easily understand it. To really appreciate this relationship, let's trace a real-world scenario that we all perform dozens of times a day. Login into an account. User action. It starts on the client side. The user enters their email and passwords and click the login button. Front end send request. The front end intercept this click, package the user credentials securely, and trigger a fetch request containing a post method to log in. Back-end process. This payload travels across the internet to the server. The back-end receives the request, queries the database to find the user's account, compares the encrypted passwords, and if authorized, creates a secure token. Backend sends response. The server packages this token and a success status into a JSON object and send it back to the client. Front end updates UI. The front end receives the response, parses the JSON, stores the token to keep the user login, and update the UI to display login successful without ever reloading the page. This loop happened in milliseconds, showing how seamlessly the two sides must coordinate. As a web application, become more complex, writing plain JavaScript become incredibly tedious. To solve this, developers create front-end frameworks to standardize and speed up development. Let's look at the three industry leaders. On the lightweight, beginner-friendly end of our spectrum, we have Vue.js. Vue is highly praised for its gentle learning curve and straightforward reactive data binding. It is the perfect choice for small to medium-sized projects where rapid prototyping and speed to market are the prioritized. In the center, we find React, developed and maintained by Meta. React uses a component-based architecture and a virtual DOM to deliver lightning fast rendering. It is the undisputed king for single-page application, interactive dashboard, and highly dynamic platform like Facebook or Netflix. And on the heavy enterprise scale end, we have Angular, backed by Google. Unlike React, which is a library, Angular is fully featured opinionated framework. It enforces strict TypeScript support and has built-in routing. It is heavily utilized by massive enterprises and financial institutions building highly secure, complex, and large-scale software system. Just as we have framework on the front end, back-end developers use frameworks to avoid reinventing the wheel for common server tasks like routing, authentication, and database connection. First, we have Express.js, running on Node.js. Its philosophy is strictly minimalist. It provides a barebone structure, giving developers absolute architectural freedom. It is incredibly fast, lightweight, and perfect for building REST API, microservice, and a real-time chat application. Next is Django. Written in Python, Django's philosophy is batteries included. It's come prepackaged with an admin panel, object relational mapping, and top-tier security protections out of the box. We use it when security is paramount on building data, heavy machine learning system. Lastly, we have Laravel. Built on PHP, Laravel brings an elegant, highly reliable model view controller architecture to PHP. It is favored for business system, e-commerce platform, and content management system because it is handle complex routing, background queues, and user authentication with beautiful expressive syntax. Now, a critical architectural question. Should we have used frameworks or should we write vanilla code from scratch? Let's analyze the trade-off. On the pro side, frameworks offer faster development. They provide pre-built tools for common tasks, significantly cutting down development time. Better structure. They enforce standard architectural patterns, making the code base highly organized. Reusability and security. Component-based system promote code reusability, and standard security patches are handled automatically by framework maintenance. However, there are notable cons. Learning curve. Developer must spend weeks or months mastering a framework's specific rules and ecosystem. Next, performance overhead. Frameworks carry a lot of extra code. If you are building a simple portfolio website, importing a heavy framework is like using a massive construction crane to hang a picture frame. It introduces unnecessary computational overhead. Third, dependency issues and rigid rules. You are tied to the framework's upgrade cycle, and your design choice are heavily restricted by its structural rule. Okay. To wrap things up, let's look at this side-by-side comparison. As we can see, while front-end developers focus on the visual user-centric, what users see, using tools like Figma, React, and browser DevTools, back-end developers focus on underlying architecture safety and business rules of what the powers the app, using Postman, database, and server languages. A successful web application is not a competition between front end and back end. It is a symphony. There are two halves of a singular whole, constantly communicating to run raw data into meaningful human experiences. Thank you very much for your time, and that's all from me. Thank you.
Nampak tak? Hello? Nampak tak? Dengar suara tak?
Dengar.
Alright. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ini saya akan explain pasal full stack development. So, what is full stack development? The full stack development ni is a software developer that can work on both and front end and back end of a software. Dia ada dua responsibility. Untuk front end ni biasanya untuk layout, UI, develop animation, optimize the user experience UX. Untuk back end pula, untuk development the business logic of the system like data validation, data process, security mechanism, and database. So next, what is full stack framework? What is full stack framework? It is a combination of all toolkits to one toolkit that provide everything need to be a complete web application, front end, back end, database integration, and security without piecing together separate library. Apa yang include dalam tu ialah front end rendering and or templating, back end logic and routine, object relational mapping for database, authentication and security features, LCI tools for code generation. For example, Next.js, ASP.NET, and Laravel. So, how full stack development works? So, the process of the building both of user-facing part of an application and the behind the scene logic that power it by integration three main layer. For example, front end, back end, and database. Okay. What is pro and con for full stack frameworks? Pro dia ialah speed and development efficiency, built-in security and features, and unified language. Tapi cons dia ialah performance overhead and single point of failure. Okay, next, full stack technologies. Full stack technology ni ialah a combination of tools, programming language, framework, and database used to build a complete web application. For example, first is MERN stack. Apa yang ada dalam tu ialah mongo.db, which is for database used to store application data. Express.js, backend framework for handling server function. React for front-end library used to create user interface. And lastly, Node.js to runtime environment for server-side development. So next is important of this technology stack. Apa yang important dia ialah dia dapat help developer organize web development process. Next, make development faster and more efficient. And lastly, provide complete tools for building modern web application. So next, what is the most popular full stack frameworks? Okay, kita ada 3. Next.js, Laravel dengan ASP.NET.Core. So first is Next.js. Next.js ni is a modern full stack web framework built on top of React. It allow developer to create both front end and back end for web application in single project. Next.js ni dia extend React by adding back-end features. For example, the developer can create user interface using while also handling database, API, authentication, and server logic inside the same application. So normally, website ni built with a plain React load content in the browser after the page open. Next.js ni improve by rendering page on the server first before sending them to the user. So next is Laravel. Laravel ni popular full stack web framework built using PHP. Dia ni design to make web development easier, cleaner and faster. Laravel ni beginner friendly lah. Sebab and is clean and readable compared to traditional PHP coding. Laravel ni organize code much better and make project easier and understand and maintain. Laravel ni guna sistem called Eloquent ORM, which is work with database much easier. So last one is ASP.NET Core. ASP.NET Core ni is a modern full stack web framework developed by Microsoft using CH-Stack. Dia ni design untuk building powerful, secure, high performance web application lah. So developer can create advanced features such as real-time communication, cloud integration, API service while maintaining strong performance. Many large company and organisation pakai ASP.NET lah sebab dia consider enterprise grade technology. So that's all from me. Thank you.
So we go to introduction to container and Docker. So what is software container? A container is a lightweight package that contains an application together with all its dependencies such as libraries and configuration files. Containers help application run consistently on different environments, whether on a laptop, server, or cloud platform. Why are containers used in development and deployment? In development, containers help developer create and test application in a consistent environment. Every developer can use the same tools, libraries, and dependencies inside the container, which reduces error caused by different computer settings. In deployment, containers make it easier to move an application from a developer's computer to a server or cloud platform. The application will run the same way because all required file and dependencies are packaged together. What is Docker? Docker is an open source platform used to create, run, and manage software containers. It allows developers to package an application together with all its file, library, and dependencies into one container so the application can run consistently on any computer or server. Docker helps make software development, testing, and deployment faster, easier, and more efficient. So, there are 4 key concepts of Docker. But the first one is Docker image, which is blueprint of an application and its dependencies. Second is Docker container, a lightweight, standalone, and runnable instance of a Docker image. Next is Docker volume, persistent storage mechanism that allows data to be saved outside the container. Last is Docker network, virtual network that allow container to communicate with each other securely. Advantages of using Docker over traditional environment. First one is consistent environment. Docker ensure the application runs the same on every computer or server. Second is lightweight and fast. Containers share the host operating system, so they use less memory and start faster than virtual machine. Third is easy deployment. Application can be packaged with all dependencies and deployed easily to any system with Docker installed. Fourth is better resources usage. Multiple containers can run on one machine efficiently without needing separate operating system. Next is scalability. Easy to create, stop, or duplicate containers when application traffic increase. Next is isolation and security. Each container runs independently, so problems in one container usually do not affect others. Simplifies development and testing. Developer can quickly test application in different environments without complex setup. Last one is portability. Docker containers can run across different platforms such as Windows, Linux, and cloud server. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, dengar tak?
Dengar.
Dengar eh. Okay, saya akan teruskan dengan Docker versus virtual machine. So both Docker and virtual machine are technology used to run application in isolated environment, but they work differently and have different advantages. So basically Docker dan virtual machine ni dia adalah satu tempat di mana kita boleh run application ataupun boleh develop application dengan isolated environment, maksudnya dia tertutup dan juga dia ada different lah antara Docker dengan virtual
Ada
machine.
slide tak?
Oh, maaf ya.
Okay, kalau tak ada tak apa.
Ada. Pak Azim.
Nampak.
Okay. Ni yang tadi lah. Okay, lepas tu what is virtual machine? Virtual machine ni virtual version of a real computer. Kalau korang ingat waktu kita subjek OS dulu, kita ada buat virtual machine iaitu kita guna Oracle VirtualBox. So virtual machine ni dia boleh run dia punya operating system dia sendiri, ada application dia sendiri, ada resources dia sendiri. Kalau korang ingat dulu kita guna virtual machine tu memang dia punya environment dia lain lah dengan yang Windows yang sedia ada dekat laptop kita. So tapi virtual machine ni dia guna lagi banyak RAM, storage dan CPU resources komputer kita. So advantages of virtual machine dia strong isolation, better security, can run different operating system. Sebagai contoh kita boleh run Linux dekat laptop kita yang menggunakan OS Windows. Tapi disadvantages dia macam saya kata tadi, large storage, high RAM consumption dengan slow startup time. So sebab tu wujudnya Docker dia jadi popular sebab dia provide a lighter and faster solution using container. So Docker ni ada container. Container ni dia macam satu tempat untuk developer simpan semua kerja diorang and save kat situ. Okay, ni what is container. Container is a lightweight environment used to run application. So dia tak sama dengan virtual machine. Dia tak perlukan full operating system pun macam perlukan Linux ke, tak perlu. Dia share dengan apa yang laptop kita dah ada. So that's why Docker ni lagi laju dan juga ringan untuk digunakan. So ini adalah maksud Docker, platform that allows developer to package application into containers. Inilah apa yang saya kata tadi, dia gabungkan developer gabungkan apa kerja diorang dalam satu container. Ada code, ada library, dependency dan juga configuration file. So benda ni penting sebab dia akan bantu developer untuk develop dengan run dia punya program tu lebih konsisten dan elak daripada bug lah. So main idea dia kalau laptop ni boleh buat macam tu, mesti laptop orang lain pun boleh buat sama dengan macam tu. Takkan ada apa-apa error lah kalau guna container. So ini adalah feature antara Docker dengan virtual machine yang korang kena tahu. Docker ni ringan, dia laju, tapi dia punya security tak sehebat virtual machine. Kalau virtual machine pula sebaliknya. So usage Docker lagi rendah RAM, start lagi laju, performance lagi better. Virtual machine lagi guna banyak memori, lagi lama untuk start dengan lagi berat. So bila kita nak guna Docker dengan virtual machine, Docker ni biasanya orang guna untuk kita develop web, cloud computing, microservice dan juga software development. So kalau untuk virtual machine ni pula untuk kita personally buat kita nak guna OS lain selain daripada Windows, kita boleh guna virtual machine. Okay, lepas tu Docker and virtual machine are both used to run application in isolated environment. Docker is faster and more lightweight because it uses container, while virtual machine provides stronger isolation and better security. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Boleh dengar? Boleh dengar?
Boleh.
Boleh. Okay, so untuk last kali kita ada Content Management Service atau CMS. So basically the definition of CMS, which is a content management system, is a software that allows user to create, manage, edit and publish content on a website easily without needing to write a code. It allows everyone to be able to make website development faster, easier and more efficiently. There are three examples of CMS.
One of them is WordPress, which is the most popular CMS in the industry. It is 100% free and open source, great for blogs, business, website, online stores, and more. For now, it's zero coding required as WordPress relies on intuitive drag and drop visual builders. The second one, which is Joomla, it's a flexible and powerful CMS in the industry. It is suitable for medium to large website and web applications, highly extensible using Joomla extension directory, and it has an excellent track record for stability and security. Okay, so for the third one, which is Drupal, is a highly secure and scalable CMS in the industry. Unmatched data structuring with highly specific data fields. It has built-in APIs with open source layer for AI integrations. It also has a pre-packaged Drupal CMS that features pre-configured setup and tools. Next, we have how CMS are used to build website without coding. So there are 6 steps to build a website without coding using CMS. So for the first one, we choose the template where the users pick a pre-designed template that fits the website purpose. Then the second step, which is to customize the design. The user can use the built-in customizer to change and edit layouts like colors, font, logo, and logo. Then for the third one, the user can add pages and content like home, about, services, and contact. And the user can insert the specific data required. So for the next step, which is to install plugins, the users can extend the website functionality like search engine optimization, forms, and galleries. Then the fifth step, which is to preview and test. The user can preview the site on a different device to make sure everything is working properly. Then the last step, which is to publish. The user can finally publish their website to the whole website, to the whole world. So for the next one, which is customizing themes and plugins, the users can customize themes like colors, font, layouts, background, and headers. They can choose from pre-built themes. They can also preview the changes in real time. An example of the plugins, contact forms, search engine optimization tools, security systems, online payment, and image sliders. Okay, so for the last one, we have pros and cons of using content management service. So for the pros, it is effectively easy to use and user-friendly interface make it easy for beginners to create and manage website. It also saves time as it's a quick setup and content management speed up website development. It is also cost-effective as many CMS platforms are free and reduce the need to hire developers. It is also thousands of plugins and themes to add new features and customize your site extensibility. CMS also allows multiple users to collaborate and manage content with different roles. And there's also built-in search engine optimization tools and plugins to help improve search engine rankings. Okay, so for the cons, many CMS actually have a lot of security risks, like target for hackers. This means that most users require regular update and security measures. Next, we have dependency on plugin and themes. Most CMS has too many plugins or poorly coded, which can cause conflict and slow down your site. And also many CMS also has limited customization, and most users will find it to be not suitable for highly complex and unique website without custom coding. Some users also report that many CMS also has performance issues, like excessive plugins or heavy themes can impact the normal website speed. And for CMS, it requires constant update for regular maintenance and themes and plugins to keep the site running smoothly. And for the last one, most users reported that the learning curve for CMS is actually time consuming, and it also costs a few prices. So in conclusion, CMS platform make websites development easier, faster, and more affordable, but they also require proper management and security to get the best result. That's all.